Hey guys, this is Jessi Kneeland of Remodel Fitness, and this is part of my Ask Jessi Kneeland Q&A series. I have with me today a guest.
Hi, I'm Jon Goodman. I run something called the Personal Trainer Development Center.
And the reason I have a guest today is because the question that I got that I want to tackle is not a normal question. It's actually kind of a composite of a lot of questions that I get asked a lot, and he also gets asked a lot, and pretty much anyone in the fitness industry probably has been asked a very similar question. So the question is something to the effect of, "Hi, I just started and I'm whatever. I want to learn how to lose weight and get fit. How do I do that?" And the problem with this question is that it is incredibly vague. It's extremely difficult for us to answer, and it doesn't allow us to help you. So I always kind of I compare this to saying, like, it's like asking, "How do I bake?" Well, how do you bake what? What are you trying to make? What are you doing? So I wanted to bring someone else on who has a lot of thoughts on basically the question of, like, how do you ask better questions, and how do we address this particular big giant umbrella question? So
Sure, in terms of asking better questions, I think what it comes down to is the understanding that, like, we live in this unbelievable time right now where it's unparalleled in history, really, where we have all the information we'd ever need at our fingertips, really, with, like, the click of a mouse. But it requires one fundamental skill, and I think that that's a skill that's not often taught enough or communicated enough, which is how to ask good questions. Understanding that when you ask a question, first of all, if you're asking a question of somebody, there's an ask of that person where you're acquiring some of their time, some of their insights, something that they've invested time or money to accumulate. So you want to be respectful of them, and so you want to reduce the burden on them as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Additionally, in the hopes of getting the type of answer you want to have an idea of what kind of answer you want to receive, and that's going to help you guide the question that you ask and how you ask it. And it requires you to kind of think a lot more about what you want to get out of that question before you actually ask that question,
Totally.
in order to get the information that you desire.
So, and that kind of brought me, when we were talking about this before, that kind of brought me back to the place where everything at Remodel Fitness kind of comes down to, like, bringing more consciousness, bringing more awareness to what you're doing. If you decide to skip your workout, for example, and you do it without any thought, you're on autopilot, you're like, I don't know, I'm tired, whatever, I'm going to go home, I'm going to, like, not do that. And then you get to the end of your day, you feel guilty, you feel weird, you feel like, you kind of judge yourself harshly, you're like, wow, what is wrong with me? Whereas if on your way home, you make a conscious choice, like, I'm feeling exhausted, I would like to take this night to just rest and recover. Well, now the same exact course of events took place, but you brought consciousness to it, and now you don't have to feel weird, you don't have to feel guilty. It brings a new level of, like, owning your life, and the same is true of asking questions. So taking responsibility for your answer is a big part of it, and then also just, like, knowing what you're asking the person to give you is going to get you a much, much better answer. So in terms of this one, what do you think would be a good response to this question, or a better sort of brain process for getting someone to ask a better question?
Yeah, it depends who you're speaking to. I mean, as a coach, if somebody asks me that question, my first answer is always going to be, why do you want to lose weight?
Mm-hmm.
Because my job as a coach, and I think any good coach will agree with me, your job is not to give information, your job is to ask questions. Your job is to help somebody really know and understand the fact that they already know what kind of information they want to receive. It's just making them know that they know that. And so that's the job of any really great nonfiction or fiction book, like we were talking about this morning before we started recording. Like, the beauty of knowledge acquisition, or the beauty of that, is becoming, understanding something that you already know is true.
Right. So it has to resonate. Whatever you're asking for, the answer has to resonate with you, or it's meaningless.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I could tell you, well, I couldn't tell you, but somebody could tell you the answer to, like, a really powerful calculus question, and if that doesn't resonate in any way with you, like, you didn't learn anything. And the same is true with this. I could tell you a lot of stuff you could do. I could tell you about complicated training protocols. I could tell you about, like, the different programs and diets and things that you could learn. But that's not helpful because I'm just throwing information at you, and because I have literally no idea where you are right now and what is going to resonate with you. It makes me answering, like, I either have to answer with everything I've ever learned, or I kind of can't answer at all.
So my answer to any vague, open-ended question is almost always inevitably a recommendation to go talk to somebody else or go have a book, which for me is a cop-out, but the reality of it is I don't know I can't answer it, and if you ask a question like that, I frankly don't have enough time, and I would love to be able to, but I don't have enough time to go through a thorough process of questioning with you.
Right.
So I think what's important is that you do that kind of line of questioning with yourself. What is it that you really want to know? Why is it that you want to know that? What's the problem you're trying to solve? And losing weight is not a problem, right? Like, wanting to lose weight is not what you actually want to do. Why you want to lose that weight is why you want to do it. Losing the weight is what you perceive as the potential solution to solve the problem that you may not even know is the actual underlying problem, which may be everything to do with, a lot of the stuff you talk about, confidence. It could be improving your love life. It could be like anything, right? But that's the problem. And so the question has to align with the problem. The question can't be like some superficial thing that doesn't actually tackle the problem at all.
And if that isn't true, like, let's say that doesn't apply to you. Let's say you've done all this work and you feel really confident and you like have all that stuff on lockdown, and you literally just want more information on working out. Well, then that's a different question too. You wouldn't be saying, how do I lose weight and get fit? You'd be saying, I need more information. Where are some resources I could find some training programs? Mm-hmm. Or how do you feel about like a ketogenic diet? Like, you could ask really specific questions once you know what you actually have covered and have not covered. So to me, when somebody asks a question this vague, it feels like they've covered nothing. Mm-hmm. And so my answer is kind of like, just get started. Get started anyhow, anywhere. Start learning a little bit about something that makes you even vaguely curious in this world, and then you'll find better questions. Like, you'll come up with them.
Which may or may not be true. The reality of it is, it's very easy to ask a question from somebody you don't really know on the internet these days. Like, online communication it's what's called asynchronous, which means like I talk, you don't respond right away. So if I'm speaking to you, it's called synchronous conversation, right? You don't have much time to think about your response. It's back and forth,
right?
Which means I sound much more like a blabbering idiot when I'm speaking to you than when I'm writing online. But most people type or communicate online like they speak, even though the biggest advantage of the medium is you have enough time to really consider your question and consider your response. And I think that needs to be respected a lot more, as opposed to just firing off an email, which seems like there are no repercussions to it. But if you truly want to get an answer or a solution or a pathway to the solution for whatever you're suffering with, whatever your problem is, whatever you desire you want to have, whatever it is, then you need to think really deeply about formulating the question in order to get out what you want to get out.
And that kind of brings me with the reason I wanted to talk about this on this series is because I do this Q&A every week, and I get asked a bunch of questions, and unfortunately I can't use a lot of them because they are super vague, kind of like this. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't think that the person asking is being disrespectful. I certainly don't think that they're being an idiot. Like, I totally get it. I've been there, and I would still ask vague questions about stuff like plenty of areas of my life. So to me, it just speaks to not having enough kind of information or awareness of like going into what you really want to know, and that makes it impossible for me to answer them. Mm-hmm. So that's why I wanted to kind of like bring up this discussion of, if you want better results, if you want better information being given to you by people who are willing to give you everything, like there are so many incredible coaches out there who are trying to give you the information that you need and work for you and with you. You have to learn how to ask questions that actually get you the information you want, and that takes work. It's a skill.
It is. It's probably the most important skill that you can do, and the way that I kind of talk about it, or I guess do it myself, is I try to break down anything that I'm talking about into as many pieces as possible. And so if somebody were to say to me, or if I want to say, I want to put on muscle, or, I want to make this amount of money, or whatever the question is, I would just ask why over and over and over again until I get much deeper into what it is.
Totally.
And break down each piece of it and each component of it. And then when you have that list of all the different components of whatever that thing is, you can say, what do I know what to do? What do I not know what to do? And then that's the point where you look for a coach that knows how to do the thing that you don't know how to do. When I always talk about the difference between a coach and a mentor, right? A coach is somebody who knows one precise piece of information that you want to learn, where you're willing to pay them for that piece of information. A mentor is very different. A mentor is somebody who really helps you understand their way of thinking. It's a much deeper relationship. A mentor is somebody who takes you under their wing. It's not like a quick like you're going to be a mentor for 3 months. A mentor is like, it's a long-term commitment.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a very deep commitment and a very personal commitment. Like you can't mentor more than a couple people at once properly. But if I want to know something, I will seek out a coach, and I'll go through that process where I'll break down into all the pieces, and I'll say, what do I know? What do I not know? Who out there knows that part of it that I don't know? How can I find them, and how can I pay them whatever the heck I need to pay them to learn that one bit, right, that I don't know, and then put everything together.
And you get to fill gaps that way, and it makes you feel like we want to talk about empowerment. Like learning how to ask better questions is an incredibly empowering skill because you start to feel so competent. You can look at the problem, and instead of just seeing like a giant blanket statement problem of like, I don't know how to get fit, you start seeing like, here's stuff I know. I know that I like doing Pilates. I don't like doing like weightlifting. That's where I'm at with that. So I'm just going to do that thing. That's like one little chunk you know about yourself. Great. And then I don't know what the hell is healthy food. Like I have so many ideas. I'd like to like sort through that a little bit. Great. Now you have a gap you need to fill and you get to go find resources. Mm-hmm. You can do that for free. You can hire someone. You can like just search out. I mean, my God, the internet is amazing. You can find anything to get you started. And then you start finding more gaps and you're like, oh, okay, well, I guess I know what like healthy food is. I just don't understand for my body how this is working. Right now you have an even more specific gap to fill and you can get more and more knowledgeable this way. And it is really friggin' empowering to like be able to solve your problems that way. So all this is to say, ask better questions, and we will give you better answers, we promise. The whole industry promises. And particularly when it comes to, like, how do I get fit, I would love to hear more specific questions that are broken down into what your gaps are, because those are the really rich, interesting things. Like, here's what I'm struggling with. This is my gap. I've got that, but in the middle, like, what the fuck am I doing? That's interesting stuff that, like, we can really get detailed with, and we can, like, plug in resources and talk about and get real about. So
sure, like what have you done, what have you not done, what worked for you, what didn't work for you. If you've done a couple things and you've been frustrated at the results, what were those things? How committed were you to those things?
How much were you tracking it? That's a huge one.
Yeah, and kind of go from there versus saying, how do I get fit? It's like, well, how do I get fit? I've been eating this kind of diet for this period of time, and I've done these kinds of workouts for these kinds of times, and I've had these results, which were good initially, but then not that good moving forward. And here's where I want to go. What do you think is going on?
Yeah.
Like that helps somebody. There still might be a lot of paths where they could take you, but then that helps somebody at least dial in a lot more into what you want to do.
And that allows us to help you better. So that's it. Thank you.